Oh, God. Well, I guess we'll do this NWA show. February 15th, 1986.
A day that will live in infamy.
We always, at least I do, get emails and tweets saying, hey, what show are you guys doing? Guys.
It doesn't matter, Vinny. Don't bother.
All right. They'll never get it.
You should see the tweets and stuff that I get.
Yeah. It's a year ago today.
No, you idiot.
30 years
it's
ago
30
today.
years ago today.
Key difference. 30 years ago today. You're right.
/ this week.
Yeah. So
what you do, everybody, is you look at a calendar, and then you go back 30 years, and that's the show we're watching. I understand there's a little confusion because when we watch Raw and Nitro, it's 19 years ago, also this week. But that's how this works, okay?
the show opened with tragedy.
Or, if you're on Apple TV, whichever one is a check mark by it, the next one.
Yes. Or, listen to the last show we did. We give the date. Do the one after that.
Had a week.
Yeah. So, February 15th, 1986, the show opened with tragedy. As they said, David Crockett was still on assignment and not on this show.
Where the fuck is he?
Only David Crockett could be so incompetent as to not finish his assignment in a full week.
Even Tejo Khan made it to the show. And he's from Mongolia or something. Singapore,
yes.
Wherever. Why is everyone from Singapore? What's with Singapore?
Who's everyone? Him and Kevin Sullivan has been at times, I think.
Random guys, you know.
Tony Schiavone, then, he always does this, but he lists off the names in the show, and maybe it's just me, but this felt like he listed off 100 men. He just went on and on and on.
Did you mention Ron Rossi?
He did not, but Ron Rossi worked the opener against Jimmy Valiant in a terrible match.
Oh. You mean in a Jimmy Valiant match? Because it's the same one he always does.
It was worse for two reasons. It went more than 2 minutes, and Ron Rossi is as bad as him, but with zero charisma.
Oh, man. Yeah, I apologize when I was talking about Tough Tim Hughes. That was the first jobber name I saw, Ron Rossi. Tough Tim Hughes is 1,000 times
Worked
better
circles
than
around
Ron
Rossi. Yes.
This guy was among the worst jobbers I've ever seen on this show. And you must consider the ground that covers.
And consider Jimmy Valiant is among the worst wrestlers on the show.
Well, the key is Jimmy Valiant doesn't do a goddamn thing.
No.
It's not like he does complicated spots.
No.
It's not like he throws you high in the air. He hits you in the neck with his thumb. And that's about it.
There's a knee to the belly. And you're supposed to sell this.
And this jobber could take none of this offense.
No.
Valiant comes out, and first thing he does is he's dancing around the ring, and he dances over to Tony. I thought he would kiss him, but he didn't. He merely told him he was there to do the boogeyman shuffle.
Yes.
And then he shoveled his way into the ring, right into a thumb to the throat on Ron Rossi, and it was on.
Yeah. And it went on for a while, and Jimmy won with the boogie woogie elbow, and we have already talked too much about this match. Tully Blanchard and J.J. Dillon cut a promo. They were very upset at Tony Schiavone, who questioned the effectiveness of their attack on Valiant. And Schiavone noted that Valiant had just beaten a man and gotten a win. And Dillon said, yes, but it took him more than 3 minutes to beat Ron Rossi. Tully Blanchard would have had that man beat between 12 and 14 seconds.
It's like Conor McGregor.
Apparently.
Can I talk more about Jimmy Valiant's match? I'm not done yet.
Really?
People thought this was real.
Well, there's that.
How?
I don't know.
Who thought this was real watching Jimmy Valiant wrestle? I need to interview this person. If you're a fan listening to this right now, and in 1986 you watched Jimmy Valiant and you thought it was real, I got to interview you. I will not belittle you. I will not mock you. It was 30 years ago. You can tell me now that you understand. But I got to know, I have to know about your mindset watching these matches, thinking that this was real. And then he puts on a nerve hold, and he announces to Tony Schiavone, I can beat this man at any time. And they did.
I cannot believe you had to say all that. The point about it being real is a good one.
It's a great one.
Yeah. So back to this.
Everything about this match was fake. The only real thing about it was how bad the jobber was. That was real. I can believe that Jimmy Valiant could beat Ron Rossi.
That's true.
Without a doubt
if
of
they had
my
a
mind.
rematch, I would bet on the Boogie Woogie
If
Man.
it was a shoot, it probably would have gone very much like this, actually. Because Jimmy Valiant doesn't know any holds.
No, you don't.
If this was a shoot, he would knee the guy in the belly, thumb him in the throat.
break his eyes.
Yeah, and he'd probably hit him with a move, and the guy couldn't figure out how to get his shoulder up. So I guess when I think about it, I could believe this was real.
You are so sick.
I'm very ill. And I like Tully's promo.
Tully vowed that within 4 weeks, first he said that within 6 weeks he was going to beat Dusty Rhodes for the national championship. And then JD talked him into saying 4 weeks instead. Set that bar higher. You're better than that.
I like this duo.
Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express got a promo. Said they had been fined $5,000 for, I believe, hitting men with a tennis racket.
Some gimmick.
And they said that's no big deal. These men are huge stars. They each make $500,000 a year. It's a fine investment for $5,000.
You know what? He's absolutely right.
Yeah.
If you need to get fined $5,000 to make $500,000, do it.
That's a huge return on investment.
It is gigantic.
Yeah. Speaking of, he held up a poster of an overweight woman in a bikini. Said, "This is the kind of fan who writes letters to the Rock and Roll Express. Real women write letters to the Midnight Express." And he said the Rock and Rolls never defended their titles on TV, but tonight we're going to put our belts on the line against real competition in a big cowboy named Ron Bass and a former tag team champion named Don Kernodle.
You know, when I was young, there was a Payless, I believe it was called, down at the bottom of the hill on 228th. And I remember I used to go in there to get stuff, you know.
Word.
Yeah. I remember one time I went in there and I wanted a specific GoBot, and it wasn't available, and they gave me a rain check.
Really?
Yeah. Welcome to a 1985 first world problem.
That is amazing, because I remember the exact Payless you're talking about, and I remember when I bought a Transformer there.
Yeah.
It was Fireflight of the aerial bots.
Wow.
It was important stuff.
I don't remember which GoBot I wanted.
I got it, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
But anyway, so also there, they had a poster area where they had all these posters. And the posters were all in plastic frames.
Like it's like a giant book. You could turn the
Exactly.
pages. Look at each
You
poster.
turn the pages, you turn the poster pages like a book. And if you wanted a poster, there was like a cubby down below. You grabbed the one you wanted.
G8.
Yeah, G8. I never saw a poster like the one that he had here. When I rifled through those posters at Payless, it was either hot chicks in bikinis or it was cars. I never saw a huge fat woman wearing almost nothing at the Payless down at the bottom of the hill at Kenya Park.
All I can say is we never went shopping in Georgia.
I guess not.
That's all I got. That's where he bought this, I guess. Baron Von Raschke versus Kent Glover.
God, you hate the Baron.
You know, a week or two ago, I called him skinny fat, and you got on my case about he'd beat my ass. And of course he would. Probably, in fact, still today, he would beat my ass. I don't care. He is high on my list of my least favorite wrestlers ever.
Wow.
Watch a Baron Von Raschke match and look for anything. Anything that you couldn't go in your backyard right now and emulate with your friends.
That's why he's still around.
Well, it is why he's still around, but that's also why he's no fun to watch.
Well, this was not the most exciting match. I was mostly watching Kent Glover.
It did not help
Kent
to
Glover.
defend the Baron. Kent Glover did not help his case.
The Baron's beating on him and he's beating on him. And finally he signals for the claw. And everybody goes, ah! And he signals for the claw. And he signals for the claw. And he signals for the claw. And Kent fucking Glover is still on the mat. So the Baron's like, all right, motherfucker, get up. And he lifts the guy up. And he goes to whip him into the ropes for the claw. And he whips him in. And the moment he puts his hand on the guy's head, Kent Glover falls down. And the Baron virtually loses the claw and has to go to the ground with him. And then he lifts him up and he puts the guy's head on his thigh. I guess so you could see the guy's face because Kent fucking Glover's flat on his back. And the guy gives up.
It takes a lot of talent to fuck up the claw.
You know what? It takes a monumental amount of
It's
talent. And
astounding.
Kent Glover figured out how in this particular match right here.
He did.
Why did he bump for the claw?
As I wrote here, Jesus.
You're supposed to get the claw to the face, and you start flailing, and then you lose strength, and you collapse to the mat and are beaten. Not Kent Glover.
So then Paul Jones did a promo with Von Raschke and his new man.
Listen, I know you hate Paul Jones, too. He's a highlight of this show.
Oh, yeah.
I laugh. I'm amused every time he comes on television. Because he is simultaneously so great and so fucking terrible at the same time. I don't even know how. He's got a new stable. The Baron, Taijo Khan and the ball bearing,
Ball bearing.
which he fucks up every
It
time.
always makes me laugh. So, yeah. Taijo Khan or Taijo Khan. It's a white guy with a mohawk,
From Singapore.
a mohawk mullet, Fu Manchu mustache from Singapore. And he's standing there gritting his teeth and bugging his eyes out. And this would not work in 2016.
Oh, come on. If you brought up Paul Jones today to be a heel manager, he'd pull it off in WWE.
Yeah, I don't know.
Can you imagine him with the Wyatts? I've got a new clan. Braun Strawman.
Brunsterman.
Braun Strowman.
I don't even know what to say. Yeah, I don't know much about Taijo Khan. I know the name from my After Mags when I was a kid, but that's about it. Ball bearing versus Paul Garner.
Paul Garner legit was a satchel ass.
Let's talk about Paul Garner. I'm sitting there trying to figure out how to describe what he looks like. He's very tall, 6'5" or 6'6". And you pointed out he was, in fact, a satchel ass. His ass was wider than his shoulders.
By a fair amount.
Yeah, it wasn't close. And
No.
It's not like you had to look super close to get a tape measure. From the safety of your couch, looking at your TV screen, 30 years in the past, you pointed to the screen and said, satchel ass.
Now think about this as well. As everybody is well aware, especially people like you, Vinny, black is slimming.
That's right.
Okay, this man was white,
Yes.
and he was wearing a black singlet. So his upper body was white,
Yes.
and his ass was, his hips were black,
Yeah.
and he was still fucking wider than the shoulders.
Significantly.
So if the man had been nude, he would have legit looked like a giant pear.
Oh, what we missed out on.
With the longest fucking arms I've ever seen.
The longest and skinniest arms I've ever seen.
How did this man not win with that reach?
So I'm trying to figure out what he looks like, and he's got brown hair and a beard and just a little bit of a mullet in the back. And I finally realized he looked like somebody took Abe Lincoln's head, put it on Giant Baba's body, and had him get fat.
Kinda.
That's the best I could do. Now, I wrote that down, and then it turned out to be very, very fitting because in describing this man like Abe Lincoln, saying he looked like Abe Lincoln, this match may have lasted 420 years. It went on for days. Barbarian press-slammed this man in a terrifying
Ball
moment.
bearing.
I apologize. Ball bearing. Press-slammed this man in a terrifying spot and eventually won with a flying headbutt.
The things you need to look out for, first off, when Tony Schiavone channels David Crockett and Ball Bearing does something and Tony screams, nearly 300 pounds of man. He's so excited.
Yeah.
And then go back and watch when the Ball Bearing stands on Paul Garner. Paul Garner, all he has to do is lay on his back and the Ball Bearing is going to stand on him and he just has to sell. He doesn't know what to do. So I can't even explain what he's doing. If I had a 4D ultrasound of my baby just like clawing around in the womb, that's what this guy was doing here. That's all he could think of doing. Just gonna like move my hands and like look side to side. That's how I'm gonna sell this. God! This show is hideous so far. And then the Boogie Woogie Man comes out
He does.
to kind of save the day. The only man who can successfully pronounce the word barbarian.
Yes. The only man in the promotion
Yeah.
who can enunciate this. He then describes all of Jones's men. He's listing them off one by one. The Barbarian from Parts Unknown. Baron von Raschke from Germany.
Rashka.
And now Taijo Khan from Singapore.
Actually, he didn't know where he was from. He had to ask Tony.
He did ask Tony, and Tony had to think about it. But he got them all out there. And he says, as far as I'm concerned, they're all bald-headed geeks.
Yeah.
And he shouted that 2 or 3 times, and he left.
Bald-headed geeks.
Technically, the only one of them is bald. The other 2 have mohawks.
I did like that twice he asked Tony if he knew where he was coming from, and Tony lied both times. I had no idea where he was coming from.
Tully Blanchard versus Ray Traylor.
I gotta say, Ray Traylor was wearing a singlet this time. Last time he was topless.
Mm-hmm.
I have no other way to describe it.
It's accurate.
Tits everywhere. This week he had his singlet on, and he looked less terrible than the last time we saw him. So that's a positive.
He looked less terrible. He actually, physically, he looked, in this singlet, he looked like King Kong Bundy with hair.
Kinda, yeah.
So he looked much better than the deer in the headlights guy we saw 2-3 weeks ago, probably. But anyway, Tully Blanchard was awesome. This was the best match in the show, and I realized that's the lowest praise.
What? No. The Midnight Express match was much better.
Tully Blanchard said, I am the veteran, wily, skilled technician. Ray Taylor is younger, bigger, and stronger than me, but I'm going to take him down with skill and wear him out. I'm going to wear out the bigger, stronger man. So he took him down with like amateur holds and was smothering him. And he was making Ray fight out of things. He was making Ray fight to his feet. He put Ray in a front face lock and Ray pushes him in the corner until he made him fight out of that. And he wears him down and wears him down and wears him down. And finally he grabs the big guy and he busts out the slingshot suplex and pins him. And he hits this giant move and the big man, he pumps his fist like, yes, I got that fucker up. And he pinned him. A well-earned victory by Tully Blanchard here. This was a squash match, but it was still different than every other squash match on the show.
Maybe I got to watch this again or something.
I got a lot out of this.
Okay, so you're not wrong for the most part, but they had some spots where I think that Trailer was like supposed to fight out, but he didn't really know what he was supposed to do, and he wasn't being helped by his opponent. And it wasn't like a shoot, but it did look out of control.
It looked, yeah.
Like they couldn't decide what they should be doing when.
They were not on the same page.
And eventually, after all of this stuff, they just started over. And they stood across from each other, and they locked up, and then he just grabbed him in his slingshot suplex and won. I was not as sold on this as you were.
I see.
I just thought it was weird.
Maybe that's why I liked it, because it was different. Your wife is cooking a steak, and it smells tremendous.
Don't remind me.
They brought in...
Feet of cold. I'm going to have so
in,
much ice cream and chips and ribeye tonight.
They brought in Jim Crockett to talk about the Crockett Cup, as well as the big gold belt. It's not the exact term they use, but they talk about the gold and sapphires and rubies and diamonds and silver all over this thing. $30,000, they said.
Yep, Flair's got a new championship that he's going to be walking around with.
Debuting on TV soon.
You know what I liked, though? They said, if you see Flair, you're going to see the new belt. Meaning, you got to go to the house shows.
Yes.
You got to go to the live events if you want to see this belt, because it's not going to be on TV yet. Mm-hmm. That was awesome.
Also awesome, he was talking about the Crockett Cup, the tag team tournament held to honor his father. He said cities from all over the world were bidding to have this event in their town. Getting offers from as far away as Tokyo, Japan, wanting to put this on. However, Jim Crockett here, in his opinion, thought it should be in either Charlotte, Greensboro, or Atlanta. Maybe
that's where David Crockett's at. He's out trying to arrange bids for the Crockett Cup.
That is as good a suggestion as anything I've heard. Ron Garvin versus Art Pritz.
I was so sad that David Crockett was not here, because Ron Garvin was all over that goddamn sugar hold, and there was nobody to mark out for it.
Yeah.
He did a sugar hold with his arm, and he did a sugar hold with his leg.
Fans were chanting, beat him up, Garvin, beat him up. He did, although not nearly as badly as he has beaten other men. They're talking about Jim Cornette and whether his tennis racket should be suspended. Not Cornette, the racket.
Yeah.
You're going to suspend an inanimate object. And then Shivani, who clearly was missing David Crockett at this point, said Garvin worked, and I quote, strictly on his own time zone. Garvin used a lot of holds. Shivani plugged the belt some more, and Garvin won with a knockout punch.
Yeah, they do the knockout punch, and then after the match is over, they do a slow motion replay of the knockout punch. Looks terrible. Why did they choose that for?
It's an open hand strike to the forehead.
Should have shown the sugar.
Yeah. And Garvin cut a promo, plugging matches with Flair all over the country.
One of these days, I'm going to win that $35,000 belt.
Yes.
In 2 years.
Cornette returned for another promo. He was appalled that they may try to stop him from carrying his tennis racket around. He insisted that the Second Amendment guaranteed his right to carry a tennis racket.
Yeah, bare arms.
I would love to see this argued in a court of law.
Why not?
I'm not a lawyer.
He's armed with a tennis racket, and it's his security blanket, he said.
Mm-hmm. Midnight Express versus Ron Bass and Don Kernodle.
I thought this was a very good match.
I thought it was a fine TV tag match. I did like Bobby Eaton in 1986 wearing a 1996 outfit of all purple and teal. They got the heat. The Express got their asses kicked for the first few minutes of this match, as was their tendency. And they got the heat in the most awesome way possible. Don Kernodle punches Bobby Eaton. And Bobby Eaton goes down selling the punch. But as he is falling down, he tags out to Dennis Condrey and then returns and grabs Kernodle's feet. Doesn't tackle him, but can just grab his feet for a minute. And Condrey comes in, and Condrey and Kernodle are trading punches. And Kernodle is not out of this. He's fighting back, but he can't get his balance because Eaton's got his feet. He can't hit as hard, and finally he's overwhelmed. Well, that's the best way to get the heat ever. Just overwhelm the guy.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah.
I like to the end. I don't know if it's at the end, but Ron Bass at one point is the big, strong. That's his gimmick. He's strong.
Big, strong cowboy.
Yeah. And so, of course, he wins a test of strength, which is all building up to the test of strength with the ball bearing.
That's right.
Which, by the way, where was the announcement of what the contest was going to be?
That's right. We were supposed to learn the place this week.
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah.
Damn it. Don't tell me they can't keep that consistent. But anyway, so at one point, Eaton tries to cover Ron Bass.
Yes.
And Ron Bass kicks out. And then Condrey tries to cover him, and he kicks out. And then they both cover him, which is illegal, but the referee counts anyway. And he bench presses both men off of him. I thought that was great. You're building up the man's strength is his strength, which plays into the other storyline. If we ever find out what the fucking test of strength with the ball bearing is and Ron Bass.
Okay, I remembered why I didn't like this as much as you did. It did play into the storyline, I will say that. But they went a long time here, like 15 minutes. It was mostly back and forth. And I believe Bass got a hot tag. Actually, they had the heat on Bass. Babyface is running wild, that's the point. Bass hooks the claw hold, and Cornette whacks him in the back with a racket for the DQ. And I had a reaction you've had sometimes. 15 minutes for that finish.
Oh, yeah.
Now, yes, it did play into the fact that the racket is under threat of suspension. And they're trying to get that thing banned. So at least it played into that. So it started fun, but went way too long. That's what I wrote.
All right. I've been Googling here, and I am trying to find if they ever did the Barbarian versus Ron Bass in a test of strength. And a cursory glance here live on the air, I don't see it. So could someone tell me what the fuck happened here? They were building this up and building this up and building this up, and now what?
I don't know. I do know Bass ended up in WWF not too long after this.
Is that what happened?
He may have just left. I don't know that for sure.
You know what's funny is, on this show, I can think of two storylines now. One isn't even a storyline. But first off, they said that we were going to get that Bill Apter segment interviewing a guy every week on the show.
Yes.
They did one, and then they announced next week he'll be interviewing the Rock and Roll Express, and we never saw it. It was dropped.
Yes.
And now we've got the ball bearing against Ron Bass, which appears to have been dropped. So, point is, it's so rare that I can remember them off the top of my head. Meanwhile, on Raw, they drop something every fucking week, sometimes multiple things. Can't even keep track. It happens so often.
They dropped the angle of the Authority wanting to keep Roman off the title after one day.
That's right.
I'm mad again thinking about that. So the Rock and Rolls made the save here after this tag match, and then they cut a promo. Said they were going to team up with Dusty Rhodes and Magnum TA to get rid of Cornette once and for all. On cue, Dusty appeared. He said, "Rock and Rolls, I have a gift for you." He pulled them over to the side. He revealed a large phone booth-sized cage, basically a shark cage. He explained he had found this on a trip to San Francisco. There had been kinky things going on inside it, but he brought it back here. He was giving it to the Rock and Roll Express so they could hang Cornette above the ring. Then he left. The Rock and Rolls were happy.
It's very weird. Dusty Rhodes is so weird.
Well, on
the
that
show
note,
is all about him.
Even when he's not on it.
Yeah.
So, on the weirdness of Dusty and that subject, they went to commercial and they came back. It was time for Dusty and Baby Doll to cut a promo. Let's start at the beginning. Dusty's first comment is, I wish in hindsight I had quoted it, but he begins to speak about how in the modern age, women have a lot of power. As much power as men. He starts off on a very pro-feminist front. He talks about Baby Doll, who you recall is his personal.
Yes.
Which apparently, as far as we can tell, just means prostitute. He calls out Tully. He calls out Flair for a while.
I prefer escort.
Sure. And then, after talking about female empowerment, and after proclaiming, sort of, I didn't proclaim his love for Baby Doll, but talked about how she was by his side. He turned to a pretty lady from Alabama in the crowd, said he loved her too, and then he left.
Yeah.
He hit another woman in front of Baby Doll.
Yeah. And she just smiled and walked away.
And she don't care.
No.
Things were weird in Atlanta in the 80s.
I got to go back to Ricky Morton here. First off, you're right. Robert Gibson never did anything.
No.
Not a goddamn thing. He didn't say anything. He just stood there all the time.
Ideally, he did not say anything.
How did Ricky do his hair like this?
I was looking at it too.
He's got a mullet.
He's got a bowl cut mullet.
It appears to be straightened in the back. His bangs go down to his eyebrows, also straightened. But the top is spiked.
The top is spiked. The other
And
thing,
he just worked.
And he just worked. The other thing you're overlooking is his bangs hang down almost to his eyebrows, but they're not even.
He probably cut him himself.
I was going to say, there's a non-zero chance he cut his own hair.
Yeah.
So, the Rock and Roll Express then had a match against Larry Clark and Bob Owens. Nothing in the match itself was remarkable, but a lot that went on during it was. First of all, they found the woman Dusty liked, and they put her on screen. And throughout this show, all the time, they will find good-looking women in the crowd and put them on camera because why not? Every other show does this as well. This one time, they picked this woman out of the crowd, they put her on TV in a close-up, and they busted out a graphic.
Yeah.
And the graphic read, quote, "Pretty lady from Alabama."
Yes. And then Tony Schiavone starts laughing.
Yeah.
She was pretty.
Yeah. There's more. Tully is giving out the number to call for ticket reservations. Then he starts thanking all the groups that have come out today, this church group and that church group and this boys club and whatever. Then he says, "Folks, I've been informed that a minute ago I gave you the wrong number for ticket reservations. The real number is this." We got it on the screen now. Between the Pretty Lady from Alabama and the church groups and the wrong number, keep in mind, this was a nationally broadcast television show.
Yeah.
It felt like public access.
That's basically what it was at this point.
Honestly, it's not that too far off. The Rock and Rolls won with a double dropkick.
We had just as good a graphics in the Youth Wrestling Federation
sure you
in
did.
1995 on Public Access Channel 29 in Seattle.
Yeah.
And better matches than half of them on this show, I might add.
This show for sure.
There was no YWF match that was worse than Jimmy Valiant versus Ron Rossi.
No.
Fucking guaranteed.
Ivan and Nikita Koloff got a promo, along with their six-man championship trophy.
I love trophies in wrestling. I'm so sad that WWE doesn't do trophies.
It works. Okay, here's the real reason. Although, there's actually, considering they travel a ring around the country, this doesn't hold up. But it's easier to do a trophy when you can just leave it in the studio for a week and bring it back out than when you're carrying it around the country. Although, yes, with all the cameras and other stuff.
Dude, people have to carry belts.
I'd rather carry a belt than a trophy.
Those things are fucking heavy, Vince.
They will fit in a bag.
You could put a trophy in a carry-on.
Did you see this trophy?
Well, here's the thing. So there's a desk that Tony's in front of, and at first they put the trophy on the desk,
Yes.
and the trophy looked 10 feet tall.
Yes.
But then Ivan went and put it on the ground. It was not quite that
Still
tall.
4 feet tall.
It was a 4-foot trophy.
Anyway, they promised that Crusher Khrushchev...
You don't have to buy it a seat on the airplane. I don't think.
You'd have to check it at least.
You might have to check it.
So they promised that Crusher Khrushchev would return soon for revenge against the Road Warriors. They ran down Magnum TA as a liar and a cheat. And this was interesting because Magnum was watching from the ring.
Yeah.
Then came the best part. They had received word from the Kremlin
Yeah, from the Kremlin.
that after today, Nikita Koloff would not be wrestling on TV until Magnum agreed to face him in a U.S. title match.
That's right.
So Ivan made all these announcements. Then they gave Nikita the microphone. I understood 0 words of what he said.
I did not understand a goddamn word he said except for Magnum. I have no idea what he was talking about. None.
This led to Magnum TA versus Lee Peak.
Ivan Koloff was a great promo. Ivan Koloff deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He's great.
I thought he was.
He is.
Oh. Well, there you go.
I'm saying he deserves it.
I see.
Because he wasn't until this year, if I recall correctly.
Okay. Is Lee Peak in the Hall of Fame?
Fuck no.
He doesn't deserve it.
God, Lee Peak. Let's talk about this guy. First off, a total jobber. He looks like a jobber, and the jobbers always have such jobber names.
Lee Peak.
Lee Peak. P-E-E-K. Not even like P-E-A-K.
Not like the apex.
I'm the
summit.
I'm the top Lee.
Yeah.
He's just Lee. I'm the Lee that I'm a voyeur.
The alpha, what?
Lee Peak.
I see.
The voyeur, Lee Peak.
I can only imagine those skits.
He looked like it. He looked like a stereotypical voyeur.
Magnum won in seconds with the belly-to-belly. The highlight was Tony Schiavone referring to Magnum TA as Magnumus.
Yeah, Magnumus.
Apparently that's his full name.
Magnumus Terry Allen.
Magnum for short.
I should ask it Magnus. I guess it's Magnus, not Magnum. Never mind.
So Magnumus then cut a promo on all the Russians, vowed that no commie was going to beat him and take the belt back to Russia.
Not you or any other commie is going to put me down and take that title back to Russia. I got to say, it was a really great promo, but Magnum was missing something.
Yeah.
I have no idea what it was. I can't put my finger on it, but he's missing something. Like if it were my promotion, this guy's always going to be a main eventer, but he's not going to be the guy.
He will always be a bottom of the top guy.
He'll be a good U.S. champion.
Yes. He will challenge for my world title many times.
Yeah.
Probably won't win it.
I don't even know what it was. Maybe he just needed more seasoning.
Sure.
Like Sam Houston.
Well, that was our next match. Arn Anderson versus Sam Houston in a TV champion versus Mid-Atlantic champion match.
Let me tell you how great Arn Anderson is.
Okay. I can talk about this all day.
He took Sam fucking Houston, and they had a really, really, really good match. He carried this guy like you carry a guy. Like there was never that moment where you thought, Sam Houston really is not very good. He's very green. Sam Houston looked great in this match. Now, the one thing I will say is, I expected more action in a 10-minute time limit match.
Yeah.
There was a lot of holds.
Yeah.
Arn worked over his arm forever.
Well, there was a story there. I mean, he would have anyway. But as they explained, the Andersons had broken Houston's arm in 1985. So he was working over the same arm injury. You were not impressed. I can see your face.
It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
They had 10 minutes and Arn was so
not
fucking great. They could, and when they weren't working over the arm, it was good.
This was not the most exciting match I ever saw. I understand your point. It was. I mean, I had more fun in the 2-minute Tully match than this. But Arn did a great job, not only of carrying the very green Sam Houston, but he was so good at pacing a match, so it always built throughout. He didn't shoot his wad in the first 2 minutes and then leave a dead crowd.
Must we after that Sunny song?
That was a bad choice of words.
You know, let me tell you how to carry a man as a former wrestler. You take a guy like Sam Houston, and you think, what can he do well? All right, well, we're going to do a lot of that. What can he not do? All right, well, we're not going to do any of that. It's not fucking hard. People make it hard, but it's not. So Arn went in there, and he did only what Sam Houston was able to do. Sam Houston takes some decent bumps. Gave him a shoulder tackle. The guy took a very believable flip bump. Does some decent jumping. Can lay on the mat and sell his shoulder. He did nothing the guy was physically unable to do.
That's right.
He got a good match out of him. And then, what a finish.
This finish was 90% sure it was not the plan, but I don't care. It worked out better than most finishes anyway.
I think it was the plan. I think Arn thought, I'll bet you anything, if this guy tries to do a high cross, and I duck, and he gets tangled in the ropes, it'll look like he fucking killed himself. And he was right.
Arn ducked a body press. Houston went flying through the air. He hit the ropes live, and then later they showed it in slow-mo, and it looked even worse. It looked like he broke his neck and both arms and crushed himself.
Yeah.
Never seen such violence on a Saturday afternoon. So he hits the ropes. He destroys everything.
It looked like cheese versus cheese grater.
It did.
That's what it looked like.
It did. His limp body landed in pieces on the mat. Arn dropped a knee. Not like a jumping knee or
He didn't need to.
AJ Styles scissor knee.
It was just to be a dick.
He stood over him, dropped a very basic knee, and then pinned him.
Yeah.
Which is why that leads me to think it was that maybe not the plan. But
here's another thing. If you're doing a match and something happens that looks like it fucking killed the guy, it doesn't matter if you've got 3 minutes worth of moves left to do. Pin him!
Yes.
When I saw this on television, I shrieked. I went, oh my God, he's dead. And then that was a finish. I thought for sure it was Arn, the world TV champion, versus Sam Houston, the Mid-Atlantic champion, with a 10-minute TV time limit. It should have been 20, right? But they said 10. It doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, well, it's going to be a draw. But when he hit the ropes like that, I thought he's dead. There's no way. This has to be the finish. And it was. This was a great match. This was the best match on the show.
Yeah, you're right. I apologize to Arn. He has the best match in every show. More Cornette promo time. He was appalled at the idea he'd be locked in this cage.
Arn's promo.
Oh, you're right. I apologize to Arn again.
Let me talk about it. Arn is sweating. He's breathing hard. And he puts over Sam Houston. But he says, and this is a direct quote, lots of guts, lots of fight, and lots of heart, but a little short on talent. And I thought that is a perfect description of Sam Houston.
It really is.
That was a perfect description of him. If someone said, Brian, do you remember that Sam Houston? Could you describe him to me? I'd say lots of guts, lots of fight, and lots of heart, and a little short on talent. That's it.
Yeah. You're not wrong. So Cornette comes out to rant about the cage. And they've got the cage off to the side of their usual interview setup,
Yeah.
which means there's no wall behind it.
We finally found out why it's called the Mothership.
God.
These two fucking aliens walked by behind the cage.
What actually happened, everyone?
No!
Someone...
Great.
Now, I don't know who or why. Someone passed by behind the cage carrying silver Mylar balloons.
No! These were aliens.
Now...
The balloons were at the level of your waist. What, were dogs carrying these balloons?
A small child.
These were aliens.
Now, I'm more concerned because what followed the balloons appeared to be a man in a bathrobe.
Yeah. That's the tall gray.
I guess. Or one gray on top of another's shoulders disguised as a human.
Yeah.
Yes. So Cornette ran his mouth for a while and finally stormed off.
Yeah, he's mad about the cage.
Yeah, he doesn't want to
He's
be put in a
afraid of
cage.
heights.
Doesn't want to be put in a cage and hung above the ring.
I don't blame him.
I don't either. Yeah. Nikita Koloff versus Josh Stroud is your main event. I wrote Magnum again. Nikita put him away in short order, one with a sickle, and then called out Magnum and the Road Warriors. So the Koloffs go to work Stroud over afterwards, and they're putting the boots to him. And the crowd is chanting for Dusty, and they're chanting, and they're chanting, and they're chanting, and Dusty is nowhere to be seen. I can only assume he met up with a pretty lady from Alabama.
Probably was.
Eventually, Dusty and Garvin came out, and they chased the Russians away, and within 5 seconds of their appearance, the credits rolled.
I was more into how first off, they're talking about how this is Nikita's last match until Magnum gives him a title shot. At which point, Tony Schiavone says the words, "So says the Kremlin."
Yeah.
So they got the Russian sickle. Nikita's screaming for Magnum. And Ivan comes in, and him and Nikita are stomping on Stroud. And they're beating on him. And Hero Magnum TA runs in to make the save. Now, the whole story here is that Magnum is the hero, and they're trying to get this match set up. Magnum should come in and run off the Russians. But no. He runs in, and he's double-teamed. Like a geek. And Big Dust has to come out and make the save. The show all about him again.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when the credits rolled, as noted.
Yeah. It's like I said when we first started reviewing these shows. If you have found Triple H's ability to put himself over the past decade annoying, he's got nothing on Dusty.
Nothing.
Nothing.
No, you watch this show for a while, and it's like, wow. The stories are true. It's all about Dusty. It's all about Big Dust. He's the main guy, always, on this show. And that was it, everybody. I got another song.